orientation is locked. Rotate device back, but I don't want to because nothing looks good when it's in vertical. That's annoying. Huh. Well, okay. Hey, y'all. Happy Tuesday. I'm annoyed by that. Um, I am going to complain, but first I'm going to greet you properly. But I do have to complain. Okay. I've got you on the pod. Do you feel safe? Do you feel secure? I hope so. I want to be able to, yes, I want to see the live chat a little bit more clearly. Let me open up my laptop. Also, welcome and thank you for stopping by. Always a pleasure. And I'm going to change to a different account so I can see it from a different perspective. Thank you for your patience with my. Oh, hey, thank you. I'm glowing. Okay. Hey, I can see myself, but I don't want to hear myself. Great. Perfecto. Okay. Hey, y'all. Thank you for your patience with my technology or lack thereof. Thank you for my compliments on my hair. I refreshed it just for this live. This is a new style that I'm experimenting with. I typically have my hair braided, like plaited in 3, maybe 4 braids. But I've been experimenting with something that's a little bit more friendly on my edges, which are just naturally thin. And so that's what these big chunky twists are about. I don't know. I've been wearing them for about a week and I refresh them like maybe every 4 days or so. Oh, yeah. So this is a new version of me. And there will be another version of me as well, because that is what mutability is all about. They said in Sagittarius rising, Pisces sun. Anywho, this is not an astrology video though. I want to take you on a tour of my studio and talk about art. And then I want to do the drawing for the oil painted portrait. Um, yeah, yeah. So that's the agenda for the day. So if you need to go and come back, I just want you to know that that's what the agenda is about. I'm not going to do the drawing right up front. I'm going to be transparent about that. Yeah. Breathing, being present, looking at some cool colors. Yes. Yeah. The thing about me is that I am one of a few people of privilege that makes a living entirely from my special interests. And I mean like my autistic special interests that I cannot get out of my brain. And yeah, 2 of those special interests are my arts practice and my astrology practice. And the way that that looks in terms of making a living from my special interests is the bulk of my income comes from the ideas surrounding art and astrology. So I write a blog on Patreon and I duplicate that same content for a buymeacoffee.com version of the blog. And they're similar platforms. They basically allow folks that want to support creatives or independent, businesses or whatever, with like it sets them up with like an exchange of content for money. And so, yeah, I have people that subscribe to my blogs. The subscription starts at $5 a month. And you can unsubscribe at any time. Though I will say most of the people that support my blogs are supporting my blogs because of their interest in reparations, and in community care slash mutual aid. And so it happens quite a lot because I depend on this income. It happens quite a lot that, people might just have a financial situation change and have to, like, end their subscription. Um, and that sucks. It really does, in terms of thinking that you have one amount of money to pay your rent with, and then, oh, all of a sudden things change. And so I just always ask folks, if you are subscribing to my Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee blogs or other people's Buy Me a Coffee blogs, please, or Substack or whatever the platform is, please always consider that, ghosting is easy, but sometimes having a communication and a conversation is actually what being in community is like. And yeah, this shit is awkward as hell to be like, hi, I'm broke. I can't afford $5 for your Patreon this month. But you know what? It makes a difference in terms of knowing exactly how much income is coming in. So yeah, that's the bulk of my income. I also earn money via my astrology readings, as well as the sales of art. The sales of art are much more infrequent than my one-on-one astrology readings and consults. Um, so, you know, I just wanted to share that in terms of sharing like the financial transparency of my life. What I'm hoping for in terms of earning income, surviving capitalism, is that my YouTube becomes a source of income for me. And so I am more recently, like within the last couple of months, have monetized my YouTube, and that is amazing. Um, and also these algorithms, these algorithms. Think about it. Like, yes, YouTube is supposedly the most transparent platform in terms of understanding how you can earn money. Though they say that sometimes TikTok pays more, but it's really, the rate changes day to day, and they have lots of little rules that change and all that good stuff. So YouTube seems to be more transparent and consistent. But none of these platforms have a vested interest in paying you. They have to protect their bottom line and serve their shareholders, right? And so what I'm experiencing since monetization is that my content is not actually being promoted in the algorithm. And yes, I think that most people who are not making a living off of their social media platforms will hear that and say, oh, that's just vanity. You're not getting enough likes because your content isn't good enough, and blah, blah, blah. If you make better content, blah, blah, blah. That is not the case, and has not been the case for a long while. I could not think of a single social media platform that I am on where the algorithm is organic. And by organic, I mean, oh, I subscribe to you and I get to see your content. It does not work like that. And it is heavily dependent on lots of behind the scene factors that I can't control. And that lack of control is making me a little disappointed in my decision to put my eggs in this basket. But I'm going to keep trying. We shall see. So that is something that I wanted to share with you all. Yeah. And in terms of being an artist, well, I have not been an artist that long. I have only been an artist for maybe 4 years. And what I mean by that is I have been a creative my whole life and have created um, arts and crafts, burlesque career, filmmaking career, um, millinery arts practice, so many different artistic genres. But I did not consider myself an artist, because it seemed to me that being an artist um, was outside the framework of my Black, queer, autistic lived experience. Like, the folks that I could think of that were artists, when I imagined that person, that was always a cis het white man. And so I did not think of myself as an artist until maybe 2020 or maybe 2021. So all of this work, and there is a lot of it, right? All of this work has been created since then in the last 4 years. And this is not including the work that has already sold. And I'm really proud of that fact, not by like sheer volume, but I am proud of the fact that I changed my mind. Um, yeah, in 2020, COVID, we all are aware of that. I was a grant writer, and that was my primary identity, nonprofit hoe. And I had my grant writing job, and I would complain all the time about the queer and trans artists that I work with and how it was so hard to get them to take the grant writing process seriously. And I always thought to myself, oh my God, if I were an artist and I had this level of support, I would take advantage of it in all of these ways and I would show up in all of these ways. And now I get to do that. And I take my arts practice very seriously. Um, and that was definitely a process of like shifting my thinking. Um, yeah, I feel like when COVID hit and I quit my job and quit the nonprofit industrial complex as a whole, um, I had an opportunity to look up and actually look at my life and say, okay, what is it that you want to do? Not what you think you should do because of respectability politics, not what it is that you think that you should do because we prioritize capitalism and surviving capitalism and put our dreams, hopes, desires to the background so that we can participate in capitalism and survive and whatever that looks like. Yeah, I wanted to make a shift from like surviving to thriving. And part of that shift was definitely rooted in how do I conceive of myself? What is it that I actually value? And how can I figure out a way to like step into that? Um, and so, yeah, those income streams, like through Patreon, through uh, constant social media fundraising, through art sales, through having astrology consults. Those are all of the things that have allowed me the income that helps me to change my belief system and help me to change the way that I think about things, not only as it relates to like earning money, surviving capitalism, but it's helped me to change my worldview in general. I keep meaning to go back in time and look at my charts to understand, what was happening. I know there was a Saturn opposition. I know that I was also experiencing a nodal opposition. Um, yeah, yeah. Anyway, so that's kind of where my arts journey has been these last couple of years. And I definitely think of myself as a person who is still trying to find my artistic voice. Um, but if there are things that I can think of as signifiers of my artistic style, I would say the use of color, the bold use of color. Um, Not so much texture, more soft blends of color. Um, and I think that my abstract work is very much centered on my spiritual practice. So you'll see lots of clouds. Clouds were one of the first artistic forms that I observed and felt a spiritual connection. I think of God as an artist, and they paint some really cool things. And I get to look up from time to time and experience the most amazing, shifting, transforming, and transformative art by one of my favorite artists. So, shout out to God, spirit, source, whatever you call it. They be doing some phenomenal work. Love it. 10 out of 10. No notes. So yeah, I feel like that's everything that I can say about just the background of how it is that I became an artist and what my arts practice means to me in terms of changing my mind, trying to move from like survival strategies to thriving strategies. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'm looking at some work, and I want to show you some work. I want to show you some work, and I have rearranged my studio so that I can show you this work in chronological order, so we can see how things have grown, things have changed. Give me just a second. Oh gosh, I love you too, me. I get a kick out of myself. I do. I'm a weird person, and I like me a lot. Okay, so let's look at some art. Want to? Trying to get this tripod out of the way so I don't trip over it, because I do be tripping though. Okay, let's turn this thing around. Oh, where's my notes too? Okie dokie. So this is this is the full view of the studio. Let me go to the door here. Right? Art on the walls. This is also the place where my guinea pig friends live. And so my first pieces of art actually live in the guinea pig enclosure. And these are definitely abstract pieces. I'm more, just generally speaking, excited about abstract art than I am any kind of like figurative work or representational work. And these were spin art. I don't know if you all are familiar with spin art, but basically it's the idea of mounting these canvases to a wooden block that you then attach to a drill or a Dremel tool. And then you apply the paint and allow it to spin out. And you get really cool patterns like these. I think this is the most dynamic. But I think this is my favorite set of colors. And so, yeah, that is the first painting art that I created in 2021, I believe, after deciding to become an artist. Also in 2021, I was a part of an online group that I don't know if it still exists, but I had to leave because racism. Boo. But yeah, it was called the Autistic Art Club, and we would meet, I think it was like every other Saturday, and just work on our projects together. But then there were also like together but separately, but there were also like art tutorials and speakers and things like that. And so once I got away from spin art, which is this stuff, I thought about doing pour art, which is this stuff. And this has actually been my most popular work, this style of work. Sorry, trying to zoom in and out at the same time as I'm talking. But yeah, this has been the most popular work, or the work that sold the most. Or maybe it just sold the most, not necessarily because it was popular, but because people were excited about me changing my mind and deciding to be an artist. I've since talked to a whole bunch of my friends that said, it took you a long time. I didn't know. So yeah, these are pour painted, and I really love this. I love these flowy abstract shapes. This spontaneous kind of way that color can like unfold. Um, I just I don't know. I got tired of it after a while because each piece is so quickly done. You know. But I did like the idea of playing with liquid with I used my fingers, I used my breath to create these pieces. And yeah, they're gorgeous, but it was a long or a short-lived period. This is another piece from that same time frame. This is actually one of my favorites. There are a lot of pieces, by the way, in this studio, and not all of them are listed on my website. This is actually one of my favorites, and it's not listed on my website because I don't think of it. I only have 9 pieces on my website, and those are like my top 9. And I think this probably ranks number 10, and it just missed the cut. So yeah. So yeah, that's the end of the pour art. Um, Also, with the Autistic Art Club, I made these 2 pieces in separate sessions. And they are my first pieces that actually used a brush, like a paintbrush, instead of just playing with like flow of paint or finger painting. This is meant to represent like that childhood feeling of getting a nice a bag of penny candy, all those different little colors that seem so delicious. And this was painted around October, and I was thinking about that experience of going to the pumpkin patch. Who remembers going to the pumpkin patch? Drop a little orange heart in the chat if you were a pumpkin patch girly. So yeah, those were painted about the same time. One thing that I will say about the Autistic Art Club is, and I'm going to turn it back around. I thought that it was really cool that they would also have autistic artists come in and speak. And one of those artists was an artist named Mark Bardon, Marcbardon, cis het white guy. Actually, I don't know that he was cis. I think he was actually non-binary. Come to think of it, pardon. But yeah, Mark Bardon was a speaker, and yes, he was a cis or a hetero white man or whatever. But for some reason, maybe because of the context of it coming through the Autistic Art Club, I actually attended the event, even though I saw, this white guy artist. I attended the event and I got a lot out of it, and it seemed possible for the first time to make a career as an artist. And he offered up really practical solutions. And I didn't naysay them because they also talked about the experience of having social anxiety as an autistic person, um, and how they moved around that to create their own artistic career pathway. And yeah, I think universe, I think spirit, I think source every day for having attended that arts talk. I can't find Mark Barden anymore. I don't know if Mark is an artist anymore. I looked him up, his website's gone. It's almost like it was a fever dream. Changed my life, and I can't even find this fool anymore to thank him. But yeah, Mark Barden got me really excited about the potential for being like a career artist, And it was after attending that session that I painted these little abstract pieces, and I'll show you. So these were like little diptychs. I painted them because it was a slightly an act of self-betrayal. I thought that they would sell. I really thought, okay, abstract work that is not too confrontational with the shapes, and has a bit of a metallic thing. Maybe that is something that people will want to decorate with. And so I made 3 sets. This violet set that has a copper leaf. This blue set was the first one, and instead of silver leaf, I used aluminum foil, and I really like the texture that came through. And a red, sort of pink one, used gold foil. I thought these pieces were interesting. But yeah, they did not sell, and it was actually a lesson for me to not make art that is rooted in like capitalism, the idea of like selling art, and instead to make art that I enjoy. These were also created in the Autistic Art Club. They're called Zen Tangles. This one, I made a series of them. I think I did a series of like maybe 6 to 10. And they were all about the sort of different things that went into my practice of self-care. So this one I remember was about my experience of taking charge and finding my own agency and finding my own pathway to earning money. And I think it's called something like fiscal responsibility or something. I don't know. This one was about the experience of self-love, which I've also written here. And this last one that I still have left, most of them have sold. I'm surprised that they sold because they were so personal to me. But this one was about my connection to my ancestors. So yeah, yes to Zen tangles. Those are fun to play with. So that's this section. We've talked about that. So when I got away from pour art and wanted to use paintbrushes, I got into these things and these things. And then one day I was watching TikTok, and this person it was a simple TikTok, and it was just them finding their own attractiveness within themselves, like admiring their own profile. And I found it so inspiring. I believe their name is, I think it was like Rookie, like the chess piece. I'll make sure that I put this in the caption. But yeah, this piece was definitely inspired by them discovering their own beauty or handsomeness, whatever. And this is probably the second portrait that I've ever done in my life. I did do a self-portrait, like 20 years ago. And that was the only time before now that I ever experienced any excitement about painting. But yeah, I was like 25 living in one of those co-op houses, and one of the roommates had access to like actual legitimate painting art materials, and they let me paint a self-portrait mural on the wall in the garage, and it came out so good. And I took it for granted. I was like, oh, okay, that's what painting is like. That's fun. And then I did not paint again for like 20 years. So it feels really odd to be back to it. So that was my first portrait. And then this one of Rook, I believe their name is the second portrait that I've ever done. What did you say? Kareem said, finding your own attractiveness through art. I ought to try that too. You maybe if you can stand looking at yourself. I did my second self-portrait recently, and I gotta tell you, it's really hard. It's really hard to look at yourself. Yeah. So that was the second portrait. I want to also check my notes because of a reason. What is that reason? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It does matter. I just feel lazy about going to get my notes. Okay. That was the end of it. KS message retracted. What does that mean? What did you say? Okay. So now, moving on. Dun, 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 dun. That is some of the old paint materials. Oh yeah, by the way, when I was deciding if I liked painting or not, I would only buy these kinds of paints, which average 50 cents to $1 per bottle. And these are great paints. Craft Smart brand, uh, Deco Art, and I think that there was another one called like Apple Barrel or something like that. Americana. Yeah, all of these little bottles of paint are like 50 cents, $1 at like Michael's, Walmart, those kinds of places. And they are legitimate art supplies. Don't let nobody tell you different. And they are a really, really good way to start if you're interested in painting. Just want to throw that out there. Okay, now, so then after spin art, after pour painting, after trying a portrait, I really just kept getting stuck by the fact that these clouds were calling me. And so I thought, okay, let's try to paint some clouds. So this is my first attempt, this black and white grayscale one. And I didn't like how it came out. And I also, once again, don't like representational work, realism. It's not exciting to me. I feel like cameras exist. I don't want to be a photographer. So I tried that out and then I was like, nah, realism ain't it. And then I tried that out and I was like, yo, the color, the abstract organic shapes, yes, yes to that. This feels very Georgia O'Keeffe-y to me. This. I don't know why. But then I thought, nah, yes, it's like yes to the color, but the color was not blending the way that I wanted to, you know? I want it to be soft. What did you say? KS says, did you feel the need to make art? Did you feel the need to make art calling you over the years? Hell yeah. And I don't care about misspellings, but I understand if you do. I get it. I get it. But yeah, so that was a first attempt at clouds. Second attempt at more abstract forms that were still cloud-like. And these, oh, I turned it around, sorry. These are where I feel like I started to find my voice. So I wanted them to be clouds, I'm not gonna lie. But then once I got them painted, I realized that it seemed less like a painting that was telling like a story and playing with space and more like a pattern, if that makes any sense. Um, and so I wanted to add an extra element, and that's where these cobblestone silver pathways come into to play. It was interesting because I always think of myself as like when I'm done, I'm done. I don't go back and question, oh, could I add a little bit more to this piece? Oh, this piece could be better if I did this. No, when I'm done, and I leave things alone. And this is the one set of pieces, these three, and they were painted like 2 weeks apart, maybe. Um, yeah, this is the one time that I was like, actually, I thought I was done, but I'm not. And yeah, I added in these pathways, and it feels very Silver Brick Road. You know what I mean? So there's a pink and orange version, a green and orange version, and a blue and orange version. And yeah, all these are meant to go together. I believe that was 2022. Where are we at here? No indicator. One of these three pizzas is going to have a year on it. I believe that for myself. Nope. Satan is a liar. I believe this is 2022. So yeah. And then also in 2022, I wanted to try out some interesting things with texture. You can see that here. Yeah. This is a piece that's called Genos diptych. Genos being the Latin word for people. And this is about the experience of what it is to feel like you are living under the experience of genocide. Just casual artwork conversations. But yeah, this is sort of a representation of like blackness and black experiences, black divinity with this gold and silver, surrounded by these kind of blood red, angular, violent interruptions, and then completely surrounded by the sea of like whiteness, white supremacy that almost feels as if it's like a mountain, an insurmountable mountain texture. Yeah. This piece was published in a magazine that actually no longer exists that was called Mental Realness Mag. And it was a magazine, a print magazine of, by, and for Black queer femmes. And so, yeah, this was published, I believe it was August of 2022. Genos diptych. Diptych just means two pieces. I do love to play with space in that way. So this is a diptych of two pieces. This is a triptych of three pieces and another triptych. This was definitely painted in, I think, early 2023, this middle piece here. And this is called the Divine Joy triptych. I'm trying to back up so that we can see all of it. So yeah, it's those three pieces that are in the middle. The Divine Joy triptych. And it started with this central piece. And I thought that that might be all there is. But I really wanted to capture this slice of sky kind of feeling. And so I kept going and added, I think this was the second canvas and then the third canvas and connected them all. And this piece was on display at the Toledo Museum of Art in, I believe it was June of 2023. Yeah, I think we're in 2023 now. By the way, these are all acrylic pieces. I believe this was the last piece painted with those inexpensive paints, the craft paints. And this might have been the first piece where I thought to buy like actual acrylic colors. And that's why like the colors are so brilliant in a way that they aren't on some of the other pieces, especially these neon oranges and neon pinks. Loved working with those. And then now we're fully in acrylic land. So that is the Divine Joy triptych that was in the Toledo Museum of Art. I believe this was the next piece after that, Cloud 9. It's funny. I really wanted to love this piece, but something about it is just not doing it for me. But also, I don't want to continue to work on it. So I don't know. But yeah, there's that one. And then I believe this is the last acrylic piece that I did. And this is where I got really, really frustrated with acrylic and its dry time and the way it did not allow me to make the soft blends of color that I wanted. I want to zoom in and look here. I wanted this to be much more smoother, much less blotchy than it is. Not the blues that are on top. Those are meant to be patchy, but this blend, for example, or here, this blend. This seems so blotchy to me, and I was trying so hard to blend it, but it was drying on me so quickly. And this is when I was like, something has to give. And I had already been adding so many different mixing mediums and nothing was working to like slow down the dry time. And then I discovered a set of oil paints for the free, and I was like, hell yeah, this is where we're moving into. So this is the first oil painted thing. I forget its name, but this is from early 2024, is when I discovered oil paint, and I will never go back. I still have all my acrylic paints and I keep them because, they're useful, but oil paint, oh, these soft blends of color like this, ooh, so sexy to me. And remember how earlier I was talking about the texture issue? To me, I have so much more texture here. And I don't really like the texture. I like the smoothness. Like, look at that. Look at that. It's just such a soft gradient. And this to me also feels like it captures a lot of the feeling that I want to capture when I think about clouds, which is the idea of light coming through, the jubilance, that like color gives us, and the ways in which it feels so, I don't know, it just feels like so broad and encompassing. And that's why I like this particular like horizontal orientation too. So yeah. Oh, also the gilded edges. Don't forget those. That's cute. That's sexy. So yeah, now we're solidly in 2024 and we're looking at clouds and we're looking at light. So we're talking about smooth blends of color and then we're talking about light play. And then, oh, my day ones will know that this is the background from my early. That was such a cute little moment. Not light very well. Squidiki said, oil really is something else. The texture of both using it as well as the painting itself is always so lovely. Yes, the way it goes on like butter, the way it's so smooth, oh, just sexy. So now we are solidly in oil territory, and we're getting these soft blends, a couple of color, contrasted with these little angular layers. And I feel like we can get a real sense of life, of light, especially here. I wanted the light to come through and then to look as if, how the rainbow works? It's like light shining through and then the color sort of breaks apart into its components. So that's where you get the Roy G. Biv. That's what I was trying to do here. So this white light is breaking down into yellow, orange, pink, magenta tones. Here, here, here. Yeah. And I believe that's my next to last skyscape. And then this is my most recent skyscape. Dang, I love this piece. This is what I've been aiming for in my brain for like 2 years. This light, the way that the light seems to be like bursting through, this contrast of these hard edges with these soft edges, these layers. Yeah, this has been what I've been like aiming towards. I wish I'd made better color choices on this one, but yeah, this is it. I think this was maybe September of 2024. Yeah, and I have not gotten back to abstracts since then because portraiture. I never thought that I would be doing portraiture. Like I said earlier, realism does not excite me. I don't like representational work. I feel like cameras exist for a reason, and I'm not a camera. But for some reason, I got really excited about making portraits. And so the first one was a self-portrait, and it is awful. This is me. This is from August of 2024. So this is the first portrait actually officially in this series, and then the last portrait in this series of portraits is also me in the center there. On the top, it me. But let's go back. So this, August. This, September-ish. And I knew that I was going to do a series, and I knew that I wanted them to have lots of color. Color is really, really important to me. I did not care at all about capturing actual skin tone color because, once again, realism is not important to me at all. And so, yeah, this is kind of a taste the rainbow type moment. And this is where it started. I love how painterly this looks. This soft blend here around, creating this like bust type effect. Love that. But this looks nothing like the source image. And I find that challenging, and I didn't like it. And so I switched up my way of painting entirely and started doing, oh gosh, I forgot the name of it, but it's basically when you take and trace your reference image onto the canvas. And so I feel like that definitely represented like a leveling up in technique. And so I feel like there's a huge difference between number one and number two. Marcellus Williams. Oh, this is just not just, but this is a model from Instagram. Just a picture that I found. I thought he was handsome. I chose green because it's my favorite color. Oh, thank you. KS said, I love your willingness to explore. It's inspiring. Yeah, that's a big thing about my arts practice. I have one of the planets associated with art is Venus. I have Venus sitting in my 5th house of creative self-expression, and it's in Aries. And one thing about Aries is that it's very enthusiastic, very childlike, very self-interested and self-focused. And I find myself all of the time when I'm painting, especially when I'm trying out new techniques or, new tools or anything like that, I'm always finding myself saying, I do what I want. I do what I want. And yeah, that's what this collection of art looks like. I do what I want. It does not have a unifying voice. And I'm gonna get to that eventually, but for now, I do what I want. So number one, Instagram model. Number two, Marcellus Williams. This one was hard to paint in that this person was killed by the state, and so he was still alive as I was painting this, and so I was wishing, hoping that he would receive this day of execution as I was like painting and crying and looking at him and looking particularly at his eyes. And then the thing about like painting portraits I've noticed is it really creates the sense of empathy for the subject that I had not expected. And so I just kept imagining what it would be like to touch his head, to kiss his forehead, to kiss his cheeks, to stroke his beard, to give him a hug, to comfort him, those kinds of things, even as his execution by the state was like almost inevitable. I don't think that I did a very good job of this portrait in terms of capturing his likeness, but I really appreciate it and I'm grateful for the experience. Yeah. The next one, I believe this was maybe September, October. I'm not clear on the months. I should do that, but this is one of my mutuals. Their name is Flawed Glory, and they are also a visual artist. And they consented for me to capture them. This is their profile picture. And I just found it to be such an interesting profile picture, that I just wanted to capture it. And I feel like I did a really good job, particularly on the highlights, of the eye, this neck here. I feel like I did a really good, and then capturing their gray or graying hair. Yeah, I feel really good about this. And then, yeah, that's the thing is that I definitely see the growth. So first, second, third, I believe here. Um, this is where I decided to try something different in terms of the size. I feel like these smaller ones, oh gosh, I feel like these smaller ones, the people in the paintings are the subject of artwork. But these larger ones where the head is larger, it feels like you are being gazed at. You, the viewer, are being gazed at. It feels much more confrontational. It does not feel like these people are the subject or an object being gazed at, but rather that they are looking at you. This is Sinead O'Connor. Also, a picture taken from a still from a TikTok video. The TikTok video was like a short, like documentary on her life, or rather her activism. And at the moment that I took this screenshot, the caption underneath was saying, "It's dangerous to be pretty." And I felt that. I felt that. Um, I don't like how it kind of looks like it's a skin tone because, a lot of the browns are brown skin tones lightened are orange. And so I feel like I wish I'd made a better choice. But yeah, this is an orange red, not meant to be a skin tone. Um, and then here, this is an artist in my community in Oakland. Their name is Shawnee Ely. And I just thought that they are such a happy, joyous subject. But I couldn't, they also are a person that does not like to take pictures of themselves, and I could not get a decent reference image of them. And so they sent me this one, and this is the best image that I have of them, but this smile, fake as hell. It's really fake as hell. And, I tried to like liven it up, but I didn't know what to do because the source image had a smile that didn't reach the eyes. And so that's what we have. And I don't like that, but I feel like I did a really good job in terms of color choices. This blue violet and this hot ass neon orange. Hell yeah. I want more of that. It feels like it's popping off the canvas because of that deep, deep contrast. Yes, making art is such an iterative, is that the word? Iterative? No, iterative. I know what you mean though. It has all of these different steps and layers to it. Um, Such an iterative process. I love seeing your evolution. Me too. I love seeing the evolution and how things change. And yeah, a couple years from now, who knows what I'll be doing. And then this is the last in this collection. And I don't know what I'm going to do about portraits next. I have some ideas. But yeah, this is the last one, the self-portrait of moi. I wanted to use rose, magenta, contrasted with green, which is my favorite color. This is me trying on glasses. And so you'll see the glasses in the reflection here. These eyes are amazing. I did a really good job getting the reflection in the eyes. I did not do a good job with the mask. It feels kind of cartoony, particularly this logo. But yeah, instead of the 3M logo, I did the 3 infinity sign logo, which is the symbol for the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network. Um, you'll see the infinity sign show up in a lot of my uh, different art forms. Like this is from a film that I made. And so it's really cool to find it in my painting process as well. But yeah, KS says, within the series, it's intriguing. The Sinead portrait as she stood out in the world, not just because she was famous, but because she didn't give a fuck about that. And her principles were top priority. Hell yeah. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I do think that it stands out in a way that from the other portraits, but I'm not quite sure how or why. Maybe because that orange is reading as a skin tone, and maybe it's reading as that's the only one that's skin toned. I don't know, but it does stand out. And I'm glad that I chose the larger size for her because it does need to be more confrontational. And so yeah, the next thing that I want to do with portraits is something called a grisaille that I've just learned about recently. By the way, I did not go to art school, so I'm just figuring all this shit on my own, right? I did go to college, but not for art. And my college experience was full of white supremacy. Um, and I can't imagine having to experience white supremacy around something that feels so intimate and important to me, my arts practice. So, yeah, it doesn't matter to me that I have not gone to art school, but I'm always curious about what I might have missed out on because I didn't go to art school. But yeah, the next thing that I want to do is basically it's this technique called a grisaille, and it's basically the same idea that I used with the portraits, using a gradient of one color. And so with the grisaille, it's the gradient of the color black. So it's all of the grayscale tones. And so it will be like painting this portrait, but then when it dries, doing an overlayer of thin glazes of color. And I want to play with that, but again, never in actual natural skin tones, but in some colors that are fun and interesting. And maybe even more than one color, not just a monochromatic color scheme, maybe in multiple colors. So yeah, that's the next thing that I want to try. And that's why after I've talked to your ear off for an hour, that's why I did the rent raffle. Like, yes, I need to pay my rent and I need some help paying my rent. And instead of just, fundraising as I normally would, I decided to do the rent raffle because I would like to be able to pay my rent and also be paid for the process of trying out new things in my art. Um, so yeah, thank you everybody that entered the raffle. Thank you so much for real, for real, for reals, for helping me to survive under capitalism and fascism. And to be able to have housing, because who among us is not 1 month away from damn homelessness? But yeah, so having said all that, let's do a raffle drawing. Hold on. I'm gonna cough dramatically. Don't freak out. Pardon me. Scotty, he said, I burnt out from drawing because of academic art. Mm. Yeah, I like the idea of going to art school because you would get access to all of these materials, a studio, um, get actual instruction and learning these materials. Like, oh, this is what it's like to use a, mixing medium or whatever the hell. Um, but again, paying white people to be mean to me about my art, we're not doing that. But yeah, it just means that I have to make a lot of mistakes. And so that's why I'm constantly trying to make more and more art because I want to make as many mistakes as I can possibly and as short of a time span as possible. So I can finally, get to the place where I'm like, yes, this is my voice. This is what I want to say. This is what I want to convey. But yeah. All right, y'all. Are you ready to find out who has won the what do you call it? The oil painted portrait. Oh, which by the way, the details on that. Whoever wins, I am going to email you. That's why I asked for your email. I will tag you in social media so you know that you've won. Then I will follow up with an email, and that email will have a link to my calendar because I need to sit with you to either get some reference images from you, maybe like your favorite picture of yourself, or if you choose to have someone else be the subject, your favorite picture of them, or to do a quick photo shoot. And I have done this online where I just, pose you, get you in some good lighting, pose you, and make my own reference image. So yeah, one of those things needs to happen. So I'll email you to make that happen. And then the actual painting is going to be a 9 by 12 unframed canvas board. So it'll be like a thin canvas. And I think that I can paint dry. I don't know if I'll be able to varnish, but I want to get this in the mail to you by July 1st. So yeah, definitely if you win, let's reach out as soon as possible so that we can get to the ball rolling. Okay. I have made y'all wait long enough. Let's do the drawing. I'm going to turn this thing around. Okay, so these are all of the people that have entered. Tickets were $20, pay what you can, sliding fee scale, $20 plus. And so if, for example, like a person sent, I don't know, $87, then I did like 4 tickets. So that's why it says times 2, 1, 5, that kind of thing. And that's represented in this wheel as well. This is the name of everybody. Please let me know if you paid for entry and I did not get your name here, because I'm definitely going to do this again. So, yeah, let me know if you feel like I've left you out. If you got left off bad and bougie, let me know. All right, without further ado, let's click to spin. Look, it's me. I'm so cute. Click to spin. Let's find out who wins. Knock on wood. No whammies. Who wins? Knock on wood. No whammies. Knock on wood. No whammies. Hey! Andy F., you are the winner. That was close. I thought it was going to be J.R. Allison. But yeah, it is Andy F. Exciting. So I will reach out to you, like I said, via email, and we will get your portrait started. It's going to be exciting. I'm jazzed. Okay, friends. If you didn't win, don't be discouraged. Like I said, we're going to do this again. And also, I want to remind you that yes, this is for the portrait and everything like that, but also it is for supporting your favorite Black queer autistic artist in their endeavor to survive capitalism and stay housed. So let's, if you didn't win, let's keep that particular goal in mind too. That matters as well. Anyway, I hope to do another one of these in the future, so I will keep you posted. Thank you so much to everybody who sent in funds, bought a ticket. Thank you so much to everybody who's watching right now. And just thank you to everybody for supporting my endeavor to yes, survive capitalism, but to make really cool art. It is because of you that I am able to do this. To be able to live in my real true purpose. So yeah, thank you for sharing. Thank you. Thank you, Kareem. All right, friends, enjoy the rest of your day. I love you all so much, and I will talk to you another time. Now, here's the real deal. How long will it take me to find the end live stream button? Ciao. I don't like going live on my phone. Oh, maybe it's this one. Yes. Okay. All right, y'all. Bye.